Hi guys, how's it going? This is James Tripp. This is for Hypnosis Without Trance. This video is about covert hypnosis versus powerful communication. Now, I've been thinking about doing this video for a number of weeks now, since I did the blog post a while back, which was about somebody wanting to hypnotize their wife to forget that they cheated upon them. And if you remember that blog post, if you looked at that blog post, I'll put a link somewhere around here so you can find it. You remember the guy was very apologetic, he'd made a mistake, but his life was hell now because his wife didn't trust him, and he wanted to hypnotize her to forget that it had ever happened so that he could go on living his life normally again. And my suggestion was for him to forget hypnosis, and show up, or at least forget hypnotizing her to forget, and show up powerfully as a guy who wanted to recreate a really strong, really profound, really meaningful relationship with his wife. And by doing this, this was the road to better things for him. This is my suggestion, this is my offering. Now, it got me thinking about this subject of covert hypnosis versus powerful communication, versus showing up powerfully and going for what you want. I'm aware that within the world of hypnosis, there are a lot of programs out there like Black Ops hypnosis and things that seem to offer and sell this idea of covert hypnosis, some kind of hypnosis where you're manipulating people undercover, you're sneaking around, you're somehow not revealing your true agenda but gently nudging and steering people into ultimately doing what you want. And I just want to say right off the bat, I think that's really weak. I think it's really weak and really counterproductive. I'm not coming at this from a moral perspective. I'm not saying, sneaking around, hiding your true agenda and trying to manipulate people is morally bad. I'm just coming at this from a purely functional perspective. Now, the reason being is because if you're interested in hypnosis for that reason, if you're interested in hypnosis for influence, and why wouldn't you be? I mean, this ultimately is what hypnosis is about, in my opinion. Hypnosis and hypnotic communication is about influencing other people. It is about becoming more influential. So if you want to do that, you want to do that as optimally as possible. And I'm going to suggest to you that by having a frame around hypnosis as being some kind of covert manipulation technique, you're actually undermining yourself in your ability to be deeply and profoundly influential. And here's why. Now, when you try and be covert, when you try and be sneaky, what you're actually doing is you're hiding your intention. You're hiding your intent. And intent and intention is a crucial key element of hypnosis and powerful and influential communication, okay? But when you're hiding your intention, what you want to have happen, the situation you're attempting to transform or steer or influence through your communication, when you're hiding your intention, your intention becomes split. Because now, not only are you attempting to make something happen in the world, not only are you attempting to nudge circumstances towards a certain outcome, you're attempting to do it without being caught as to your true reason, your true intention. So you now have a split intention. One aspect of your intention is to realize what you want. The other aspect of your intention is to hide your true intention. So you end up being pulled in two different directions. You can no longer powerfully align clearly around one clear, solid intention, because at least half your energy is spent trying to hide stuff. Now, I hope that makes sense. You end up with a split intention. Now, let's look at the other side. Let's look at communicating powerfully. Now, when I talk about communicating powerfully, communicating impactfully, I'm not talking about not using hypnosis. So far as I'm concerned, hypnosis is all about the use of language and communication to direct attention, lead cognition, and seed ideas for the purpose of leading somebody into an altered experience or altered perception of reality that may lead to them making different choices. So it's a powerful way of using language and communication for influence. But what I'm suggesting to you is you're so much more powerful in doing that when you show up clearly and congruently around your intention and your intent. When you're willing to boldly align with your intent, you're so much more powerful and so much more impactful, because you are hiding nothing and you are standing congruently and clearly behind everything. So this is one of the messages that I teach people when I'm teaching hypnotic language, so to speak, or influence through conversational hypnosis. I prefer the term conversational hypnosis to covert hypnosis, because the covert there implies that kind of sneaking around, that sort of Gollum way of being. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Whereas conversational hypnosis, it's just in conversation, but you're not necessarily hiding anything. What you want to have happen, you're perfectly clear about. You don't have to lay it out. You don't have to say, this is what I want to have happen, but at the same time, you're not hiding it. Now, this shows up in many different areas in life. I know there are some people who are interested in NLP, hypnosis, this kind of thing, and they're interested in applying it to the sort of dark arts of seduction. And a lot of the time this is guys, and they're afraid somehow that they're not a worthwhile human being or something. There's no way a girl would possibly like them, so they now have to manipulate them somehow. They have to brain wrangle them into liking them. It's weak. It reveals weakness. It screams weakness out. Weakness seeps out of every pore, and ultimately all that sneaking around, all that weakness, because it's driven from a place of fear, you see. Fear of being caught, found out, fear of being found out to have desire and having to hide that and somehow manipulate things. So it seeps out and it undermines, and it ultimately has a counterproductive effect because people sense it. Human beings, all of us to a greater or lesser extent, sense incongruence. We sense duplicity. If somebody is showing up and they feel that what they desire, what they want, is somehow something that has to be hidden, they're uncomfortable with it, that lack of comfort will leak out. That desire to hide and sneak about will leak out at some level. It may not register consciously with the person, but it will register on some level and it will undermine, unless you're really good. Some people might be really, really good at covering that up. I'll give them credit to that. But for most people, I don't advise it. What's much stronger, is you showing up centered in what you want, unapologetically. Why should you apologize for what you want? The only reason somebody would want to apologize and hide what they want is if they felt on some level it was inappropriate to want that, or it was dangerous to want that, or whatever. It ends up connecting people to fear, and fear is never a good place to be connected to in yourself if you want to influence other people. You're much better off connected to profound clarity and desire, really clearly aligning yourself unapologetically with what you want. Ultimately, I've said this before in other places, that's the essence of being personally powerful. It's being clear in what you want and being willing to go for that congruently, 100% aligned with that. When you show up and you use your communication skills, your hypnotic language skills around that kind of frame, you're strong. You're showing up in the world as a powerful, centered human being who knows what they want and is willing to go for it. That, in and of itself, feels different to people. Subtly outside of consciousness, they sense that congruence, they sense that strength, they sense that power, and they have a different view upon that person. They find themselves looking up to that person. They find themselves feeling gravitationally drawn to that person because that person represents something noble, if you like. Now, there's a way of thinking about this. I'm going to geek out on you now. For those who have not either read The Lord of the Rings or seen The Lord of the Rings film, please forgive me. But if you have, I want to offer you an image. Covert hypnosis versus powerful communication. Covert hypnosis is represented by Gollum. You know? Gollum, sneaking around. He has this agenda. He's attempting to deceive Frodo, and he's sneaking so he can get the precious back. But he doesn't want to reveal that. He's sneaking around. Gollum. You know, and when you look at Gollum, what do you see? What do you see? At best, it's pity. At worst, it's contempt, you see. Gollum is not an inherently powerful creature. Sure, Gollum can manipulate. Sure, Gollum can make a difference. But Gollum isn't inherently powerful. Gollum represents covert hypnosis. So who represents powerful communication? Well, that will be somebody like Aragorn, okay, Strider. Strider turns up. He is the king in exile. He is returning to powerfully serve his people, to stand up for his people, what they believe in. He has a clear agenda. He aligns himself around that, and he strides forward and makes that happen, and ultimately is the victor in the end. So now I'm aware that's kind of gender specific. I'm introducing two male characters there, so forgive me if you're watching this and you're female, but the same point is true. If you're sneaking around trying to manipulate people, trying to hide your intention because you're ashamed of your intention, you feel your intention is going to freak people out or whatever, it will corrupt your clarity and your power in your communication. It will corrupt your influentiality. If you show up with clarity, centered in your intention, you're going to show up strong. You're going to have a different sort of influence on a different level, what I sometimes call gravitational influence on top of the strategic influence. So bear that in mind. Show up powerfully. And here's a rule of thumb for this. One of the things I often suggest to people is never attempt to use your hypnosis or hypnotic language skills to go for something you wouldn't be prepared to just ask for. Okay? That's a good test. It's a good test. If you think about asking for the thing that you want and you have an internal response to that that says, oh, I can't possibly do that, what would so-and-so think? What would they think? They would think this about me. They would think, if you have that kind of internal response, that's a really good signal. It's a really good piece of information, because what it says is you're not willing to stand by what you want. You're not willing to stand congruently by what you want. You have some shame or some fear around it, and that's going to undermine you. So this is about doing some inside-out work, the inner game, the inner transformation. To show up as a powerful communicator, the first person you want to influence is yourself. You want to become centered and congruent in yourself, become clear in what you want, and willing to stand nobly and with clarity by what it is that you want. It's okay to want what you want. If you fear other people knowing what it is that you want, there's some internal work to do there with yourself before you're really starting to be able to show up powerfully in life and really influence people on the level that you would like to do so. So there it is. There's covert hypnosis versus powerful communication.